In this video, we're going to be working on a charge particle. Hey there, welcome back to another Retro Cemetery tutorial. This is Drew. So I had somebody on another video ask me a question about this particle effect I had when I had a ship charge up and attack. And so I'm just going to show you how I did that because it's a really neat effect, and it honestly is a thing that made a lot of programming click for me. I'm not a programmer by nature, I'm an artist, and I only decided to learn some programming so that I could figure out some cheats and stuff for artwork and how to implement artwork better in my games in such a way that I would be able to kind of test them out on my own instead of making some artwork and passing it off to somebody else. At the time, I was really trying to get into this indie studio that I thought was really cool, and they didn't have room for me, and that's totally fine. But I was experimenting around, and I learned a lot on my own while I was kind of aiming for that. And so I'm going to show you what I did. So right now, all I have in this project is just this little ship that I made just now. And we're going to create a particle. And we're not going to implement a particle system, mostly because you're actually going to have to control these as objects. But this is going to be pretty easy. I'm just going to create like a dot. I'm going to go pretty good size. And I want this to be a color that I think conveys energy pretty well. So normally what I would do is I would have two layers and identical shapes on each layers. And I would have like a background color and a foreground color. And then I'm going to go up to effects and I'm going to choose blur. I'm just going to make that radiate out by about 3 or so, maybe 4. Let's go 5. And if you want, you can also do the same thing to the inside part. You might not want to, that's fine. It's kind of nice having like a sharp edge sometimes. It makes it read a little easier if it has kind of like a sharp inside edge. But we're just going to go with that. This doesn't have to be anything fancy. This is just a quick tutorial. So this is our particle, right? I need to set up a room. This is a fresh project, so I got to just set up your most basic things. Okay, and let's create an object. It's going to be our spaceship. And really only going to have like one thing for the ship to do so far. And we'll get to that in a minute. Let me create my object part, my particle object. And in the create event, I'm going to say image alpha equals 0. And in the step event, I'm going to say image alpha plus equals. Actually, I'm going to create a variable. I'm going to call this alpha rate because I can't think of anything better to call it right now. And it's going to be choose 0.01, 0.05. Actually, we're going to call this random range 0.1 and 0.1. There we go. Now, image alpha is how transparent the item is, the object is. 1 is fully opaque, which means you can't see through it at all, and then 0 is completely invisible. And a 0.5 would be halfway visible. So, or halfway invisible. So, and then the alpha rate, this is a variable I'm creating, and it's going to have a random range, which is anywhere between the two numbers that you put in. So 0.01 and 0.1. We're going to increase the alpha by this amount, and it's every time this particle is created, it's just going to assign a number to this. And it's going to be somewhere between these two numbers. And it's going to be because it's random, each particle it gets created will be unique to its, that number will be unique to it. And so, keep in mind that this game is running at 60 frames per second, or 60 steps per second. So like a 0.1 in 1.4 seconds would be totally solid color. So it's pretty quick. Doing that right? Yeah, I think so. Sorry, it's very early in the morning for me, and I'm still kind of fuzzy. But yeah, no, I'm sorry. Within 10 steps, that will be a solid 1. So that's 1/6 of a second. I knew that was off. And then that will be within 100 seconds because it's 0.01. So that would be 1.4 seconds. So we've got that. We're going to say image alpha plus equals alpha rate. And then just if image alpha, we'll just lump this in up here. We'll say if image alpha is less than 1, then we'll add to it. Because there's no need to add to it if it's above 1. Okay. I'm going to say var charge equals board check dk space. I'm just setting this up. So we're going to do a keyboard check, and for every step that space is held, charge is going to happen. If charge instance create layer, and we're going to x, y, instances, o, particle. That's what we're going to create. Now we need to decide where we're going to create it. And basically, when we're in the room here, I want particles to be coming from all around me. Just in a big circle around me, or a big area around me, and coming in. And so the x and y, we need to say x plus random range, negative 128 and 128. So this is 32 pixels wide and 32 pixels tall. So just 128 pixels to the left or the right of me. That might, that's pretty good range. It might be too much, we'll see. Plus, and then y is going to be plus random range minus 128 and 128. So as we hold down this button, it's going to just every step, so 60 times per second, it's going to create a particle somewhere around me in this huge box. It's going to be 128 pixels to the top and bottom of me and to the left and right of me. So it's basically a 256 by 256 square is where these are capable of being created from. Okay? And then they need to move towards the ship. So we're going to say if instance exists, O ship. And the reason why we're checking for the ship is because if you're actually making this in-game, if an enemy destroys your ship while these particles are created, if they're looking for the ship and the ship gets destroyed, it crashes the game. It's not like they just can't find the ship, it crashes the game. So we have to make sure that the ship exists first. And we're going to say motion add. Let's see, oh well, I could say like move towards point, or move towards point. Yeah. oship.x, oship.y, random range, and 3. So we're going to say if the ship exists, move towards it, the x and y of the ship, at a speed anywhere between 1 and 3 pixels per step. Else, instance destroy. And you can do something a little more eloquent than just instance destroy. You might have them fade away or something. But for the sake of this very simple tutorial, we're just going to keep it simple. So we're saying if the ship exists, move towards the ship. We're looking for the x and the y of the ship, and we're going to move towards a random range, a speed of either anywhere between 1 and 3 pixels per step. Just as a quick note, random range is literally anywhere between 1 and 3. So it's not just 1, 2, or 3. It could be 1.0005, 2.998, anything like that. So it doesn't... If you wanted it to just be 1, 2, or 3, you would actually use irandom range. And that looks for a whole number, an integer, to be... to round that up to. So let's give this a shot. Oh, and actually, we need to tell it what to do when it does get to the ship. So we're going to say there's a collision with the ship, and we'll just say instance destroy. And on that note, we're actually going to... Actually, you know what? We're not going to do that. We're going to say... We could reduce the collision mask of the ship. And really, you don't want your collision mask to take up the entire ship anyways. Because if you're playing and a bullet grazes like just the very, very, very tip of your wing, that'd be really frustrating. And anybody playing your game would call BS on that. They'd be really frustrated. So it actually really helps to have a smaller collision mask than your actual sprite. And that way, if a bullet just kind of whizzes right past the wing and it doesn't kill your guy, they think, hey, that was a really close call. That was fun. Yeah, we're just gonna say, you collide with the ship, the particle is going to be destroyed. Let's see how this looks. And there you go. Actually, I want to do something else. We're going to say image x scale equals random range 0.1 and 1, and image y scale equals random range 0.1. Now this is how wide and how tall the image is. 1 is just totally normal, and then 0 is totally flat in either an x or y position. So for instance, you've got this here. If it's like, this is a y image y scale of 1, this would be 0.5 and this would be 0. And then same with the x image x scale. Let's see how that looks now if those are all totally random. It's okay. Not great. I'm actually going to say that the image y scale equals image x scale, just so that they stay kind of uniformly round. There, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's a good effect. And then something else I like to do, and this is kind of fun. Let's create a new sprite. And this one's going to be 64 by 64. Edit image. We're just going to create a big round circle like that. Let's go ahead and dye it. And duplicate this layer, and this one on top is going to be white. We're going to blur it just like we did the other one. I'm going to go nuts with that. And there we go. So now we got this big bright glow. And we're going to make that into its own object. It's going to be the glow object. And steps can say x equals O. Well, first you want to do if instance exists, of course. Yep. X equals O ship.x and y equals O ship.y. And in the create event, we're going to say image alpha equals 0. In the step event, we're going to say image alpha plus equals 0.01. Okay, and so we're going to increase the image alpha as we go along. But I'm going to say as long as it's under 0.5. Whoops, you don't want that. Okay, so we're never gonna want this to be past half, because this kind of have like an ethereal glow. So I say if charge. Now we need to create just one of the glow when it's charging, and we don't want to create more than that. But if you're holding down charge, it's going to be every single step. There's two things you can do. You can create a new variable that is for a keyboard check pressed, which only looks for something once. Or if you need something to happen within here, you can say, if it does not exist, go ahead and create one. So there's two ways we could go about this. If not, spelling out the word not and putting an exclamation mark before something both mean the same thing. Just for the sake of clarity, I'm going to say if not instance exists, so glow instance create layer xy instances glow. So it will only create this if there's not one in existence. And because there's not one when you start pressing this, as soon as you press it, it's going to create one, and this condition will not be true anymore. So then it'll only just have the one. But then, how do you get rid of it? When you let go of the key, you want it to go away. Actually, if you're trying to charge up before like an attack or a special attack, like a teleport or a special attack or something, just leave it there. That'll be fine. So yeah, so then whatever button you have that like shoots a beam or teleports or something, that can be what destroys it. We'll go ahead and set that up. So I'm going to set up something called shoot to keyboard check pressed F key. You have to do ORD and then F in quotes. And we'll just create a bullet real quick. I'm going to delete this. I meant to duplicate it. We're going to do the same thing we did for all those particles and effects because it's all kind of one, supposed to be one, kind of family of energy and weapons and stuff. So I want this to kind of trail just a little bit. Oh, wrong with it. Kept looking at that funny because it wasn't perfectly even. There we go. This by no means is going to be perfect, but this is going to be our bullet. And create it real quick. And as always, anything that goes outside of the room that does not need to be accounted for or brought back in or anything like that, destroy when it leaves the room. So we're going to want to create this just a little ahead of the ship because the origin point is dead center. So we're going to say plus 16. And then we are also going to destroy the glow. If instance exists, O glow, instance destroy, O underscore glow. See how this looks. So we get this glow going when we have our when we absorb our particles. Stays with us, and then you can shoot, or you can teleport, or whatever you want to do. And that's kind of our charge shot. So maybe that should be like, there should be a different, smaller bullet for if you're not charging up. But anyway, there's how you get a pretty neat effect out of that. Actually, that room is not nearly large enough. I am drawing from way too large an area around me. You don't even really get to see the beginnings of it. So let's make this a little smaller. Oh, jeez. I forgot I had that. It was bothering me. I didn't realize where that was coming from. So there you go. This was actually one of the first thing that made programming click for me. And the reason why is I love Super Metroid. It's one of my favorite games of all time. And you have a charge animation in it. And I wanted that effect. I wanted it to look really cool when you charged up. And I wanted it to look just like Super Metroid. And then I went back and I watched Super Metroid closely. And I realized it's only like a 4 to 6 frame animation or something like that. I don't remember off the top of my head. But it's a really small animation. And it actually just looks the same over and over and over again because it is. And I thought, like, I couldn't quite get mine to look right. And it didn't look that cool either. And so I was like, geez, I want something that works a little better than that. And so I created this kind of idea that, like, it'll just randomly pull from wherever. And that will be a lot cooler in the long run because it's just random every time. And it's going to look like fresh, and it's going to kind of have this a little bit more believability that you're just pulling energy out of the air to converge on your ship. Actually go one step further with this, and we can say in the step event, image angle equals direction, and image x scale equals speed divided by 2. Because the speed will always be... Let's see how this looks. It's not really doing. Oh, that's because it's a glow. But I'm silly. I apologize. Let's see. Particle. I guess. Yeah. So we're going to say that the image angle, it's going to turn in the direction. It's going to face the direction that it's moving. And then it's also going to stretch out in that direction based on how fast it's moving. So now you definitely have like a much cooler look where they're like kind of zipping towards. That looks much better. Yeah, that's not bad. Alright, and there you go. Add that to your game if that'll help you out. But I definitely think that if you have like a charge effect or something, this is actually way easier than trying to animate something by hand to look really good. And it's much more versatile. And you can change the parameters and everything to see if they look better for you and whatnot. And you can make that glow go away in a less abrupt way. But yeah, I hope this is something useful. I appreciate you all sticking around. And thanks very much. Go make some great games.